Hello and welcome again to AP Language and Comp Vocabulary. This is list number 2. I'll be the judge of that. Again, remember to take Cornell notes, the title in the very top, which would be Vocabulary List 2. I'll be the judge of that. And divide your paper into 2 sections with a line down the middle. The left side, you would record the word, the part of speech, and the definition, and any of the word variations. And on the right, you would create something that'll help you remember the word. It can be a picture. You can create your own sentence. You can use the sentence I gave you. You can draw symbols. Anything that's really going to help and solidify this visually or linguistically in your head. So we're ready to get started. Okay, our first word, again, these are all words that deal with judging and judgment and courtrooms and things like that. So our first word is arbiter. It is a noun and it means a judge who decides a disputed issue. There are just the word variations would be making that plural, which are arbiters. An arbiter was hired to settle the Major League Baseball strike because the owners and players could not come to an agreement. And I just put the picture of our famous judge, Judge Judy. Hopefully you've seen her on TV. If not, check her out sometime. She's pretty funny. But she deals with a lot of disputes between some really idiotic people. I'm sorry I'm being judgmental, but that kind of is what the show, why it's so popular. So anyway, that's arbiter. Our next word is biased, and this is an adjective, and it basically means when you're prejudiced. Now, prejudice doesn't necessarily mean racist. You can be racist when you're prejudiced, but prejudice is just a word that means you're taking one side to something. You favor something more than you favor anything else. So it's not necessarily negative. It just more or less means that you favor, as I said, one opinion, one side. The other variation on the word is bias, and that is a noun. And then judges should not be biased, but should rather weigh the evidence fairly before making up their minds. And I thought this was a cute cartoon. You write what you're told. Thanks, corporate news. We couldn't control the people without you. And this is kind of a good thing to use for AP because we read a lot of things that could be very biased, and you have to watch bias, especially in the news. There are many news corporations that are biased towards a certain political party. I know that Fox News is pretty Republican, and there are some newspapers that are Republican or Democrat, depending on their leanings. And you can usually tell that when you look at a paper and they endorse a certain candidate, or you watch TV and you hear some of the shows might be from Republicans or very conservative that they put on their shows. HBO is very conservative. I mean, I'm sorry, very liberal. They're much more democratic. If you ever watch some of the late night comedian panelists and stuff, put people on like Bill Maher, they're pretty so democratic. It's very liberal. So just to let you know that when we study stuff, we look for biases in the things we read, just so that we know that we don't want to take everything at face value and think about some of the things and some of the biases of people who are writing. That's always good. That you should also get to know the speaker better before you read. We spend a lot of time thinking about speakers, and I'll give you some information at the top of the readings. And sometimes you can figure out biases that way. Okay, our next word is exculpate. And it's a verb, and it means to free from guilt. Some variations on that would be the tense of the verbs. Exculpated is past tense, exculpating is present tense. It's happening right then and there. When the gold coins discovered in his closet were found to be fake, Dr. Rideau was exculpated, and the search for the real thief continued. And I kind of like this little drawing of using the word with it. I find you not guilty of any charges framed against you. Thank you for exculpating me. For some reason, this word is used wrong by students in the past. I just want to make sure you understood how to use it actually in a sentence. And it really only means when you are not found guilty of something. You're freed from the charges. So there's no other meaning of that. The fourth word is impartial. It's an adjective, and it means not in favor of one side or the other. So it would be kind of the antonym of biased. If you're impartial, you're unbiased. The word variations, it can be a noun, impartiality. You can have impartiality when you're deciding something. The umpire had a hard time remaining impartial. His son was pitching for the home team, and this made it difficult to call the game fairly. And then this cute little video. Don't worry, the courts are impartial. Which is not true. Obviously, if you take a minute to look at this. They're Rangers fans, and he's a Bears fan. So, they wouldn't touch me fairly. I think that's Bears. Looks a lot like Bears colors. Either way, they're not from the same team. Next word is incontrovertible. That's an adjective, and it means not able to be denied or disputed. And there are some word variations on that. An adverb, you can say incontrovertibly. The videotape of the robbery provided incontrovertible evidence against the suspect, who was obviously guilty. And I kind of really liked this quote from Winston Churchill using it. The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it, ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there it is. You can't deny the truth. The sixth word is integrity, and it's a noun, and it basically means trustworthiness or completeness, and there are no word variations to that word. The integrity of the witness was called into question when her dislike for the defendant was revealed. Some jurors suspected that she was not being entirely truthful. So it's just how much you trust somebody, their trustworthiness. But there's a little bit more to integrity, which I'll show you on the next slide. So I kind of like the quote on the right that says, integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. So somebody with integrity always has, if you look on the left side, ethics. Those are morals and ethics. You do the right thing. Ethics means doing the right thing. And you know the difference between right or wrong. You know what's evil, and you normally don't do evil. You're concerned for others. You have justice. You trust, or people trust you. I'm not exactly sure how code fits into there. Choices, you make the right choices. You question things. You stick to your own decisions too. You don't let anybody kind of sway you, but your decisions are normally based on your morals, and you know the difference between good and bad. You can solve dilemmas that way, and you have a really good philosophy on life. And it says on the bottom, every day we are faced with opportunities to demonstrate integrity, and others are noticing. All right, our seventh word is objectivity. It's a noun, and it basically means treating facts without influence from personal feelings or prejudices. Word variation, you can say there's an adjective, objective. It is important that judges hear all cases with objectivity so that their personal feelings do not affect their decision. You are going to have to know the difference between subjectivity and objectivity. You're going to be asked the difference between those two things, sometimes in questions, but pretty much it's one of those words you should know both of these words. So basically, subjectivity versus objectivity. Subjective basically is evidence that you cannot evaluate. You simply have to accept or reject what the person says. It emphasizes personal feelings, thoughts, judgments, and opinions. So when something is subjective, there's much opinion associated with it. If you were to think about ethos, logos, and pathos, normally your pathos is very subjective, very a lot of personal feelings attached to that and things. But objective would be your logos, evidence you can see and evaluate for yourself. It emphasizes facts, figures, and imagery. So basically, you can't deny it when it's objective, or you kind of don't use your opinion at all when you're making this decision. Like a lot of times when you take multiple choice tests, they call them objective tests. That's because there's either a right or wrong answer. There is no, in between, and there's no like subjectivity. A lot of times when I grade stuff like your essays and things like that, or your other teachers do, there is some type of personal feelings and thoughts and judgments and opinions that could change from teacher to teacher depending on, what's not supposed to. We're supposed to be as objective as possible and graded on a scale that is pretty, that's where we try to create rubrics and things like that. But there's sometimes when we know a person and, we kind of have a little bit of subjectivity attached to it. Let's say a person worked really, really hard on something, or and we know how hard they worked and how much they've improved. Sometimes we're a little bit subjective with the grade. So those are the differences. But if you're objective, like math, clearly objective. You either got it right or you got it wrong. There's no gray area. The next word is plausible. Seemingly valid or acceptable or credible. It's an adjective. Some word variations. It can be a noun, plausibleness, or it can be an adverb, plausibly. So it's basically, it's valid, it's truthful, it's acceptable, it's credible. Anything that, these things are all true when you say something is plausible. Keith's excuse that he missed school yesterday because he was captured by space aliens was not very plausible. So this is another cute cartoon. This is a plausible business plan, except for the part about winning the state lottery, obviously. Next word is substantiated. And again, this is a verb. It's supported with proof or evidence or verified. Again, a very logical word. Some word variations: substantiation, substantiative. Sorry. The fingerprint evidence substantiated the detective claim that the suspect had been at the scene of the crime. So something has to be to be substantiated, it has to have proof. And this is kind of like a representation of the saying. It has to have the burden of proof. It's kind of a burden carrying around proof, but it has to have that to be substantiated evidence. Or you have to be able to prove it. The last word is vindicated, and it means freed from blame. It is a synonym of the word exculpate. The word variations: vindicate, vindicating. The noun vindication. Mrs. Layton was finally vindicated after her husband admitted to the crime. And basically, if you are vindicated, you're acquitted of a crime. So that ends our vocabulary list number 2. At the end of creating all your lists by Tuesday of every week, you should upload a version, a poem, a song, or a narrative, short, narrative about using 7 of these 10 words. And then that, hopefully, if you upload it to our website, others can view them and vote on them.